Welcome to the Anchor Your Retirement podcast. I'm your host on this post NFL opening Chiefs victory day, and I'm hanging out with my buddy and pal Tony Shore. How you doing, Tony?
I am so good, Barb. I really enjoyed the game last night. The Chiefs look great.
Mhm.
I think they beat a pretty good Baltimore team last night. So
They
that looked good. They always manage to do it. I can't believe it, but that was the opener. I love pro football. Not
mhm.
all of our listeners and viewers are into sports, but the first real NFL game of the season was last night, the first
Yes,
actual game of the
yeah.
season. So that's kind of the sign that fall is here to me, right?
As is the hunt for the playoffs in baseball.
Yes, we need to talk about that really quick
We
before we talk
do.
about taxes and investments and retirement, which we're going to get to. Let's talk about the my team, where I grew up in Minnesota, so I'm a big Minnesota Twins fan.
And there happened to be a bunch of them down in Kansas City this
Yeah.
weekend because they're playing the Royals.
Yes, it's a series. The
It
Twins are
is.
visiting the Royals, so it's your team. I know you're a huge KC Royals fan. I'm a
I
huge Twins fan.
And right now
Um,
the Twins are a half a game ahead of the Royals because really did not. We had a
in the
streak
standings,
there that
yeah.
sucked.
In the,
And
yeah.
then, well, I mean, one of our key players broke his thumb. Vinny, we hope you heal quickly. And we had a rough series against Cleveland. We got swept by Houston.
Oh,
Um, yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
Well, the Twins haven't been doing a whole lot better. But Barb, to make this interesting, I know normally I'm not a gambler, and we always tell our audience out there, listeners, remember no wagering. However, Barb, I'll
However,
bet you $10 that the Twins win this series against the Royals.
no, if the Twins win the series against the Royals,
Okay.
I'll bring you something barbecue themed when I come up to Minnesota for the advisor forum at the
Okay.
end of September.
Okay. And if my
Okay.
if my Twins lose to the Royals, I will have to give you. Oh, what could I give you? I mean, I could bring you snow probably in a month or two in a freezer. But I'm trying to think of something positive I could give you.
I am trying to think.
Yeah, maybe I would have to wear a Royals hat
There we
for
go.
an entire episode.
There we go.
Or a
There
shirt,
we
a
go.
hat or shirt, KC Royals hat or shirt I'll have to wear for an entire episode as a Twins fan of the Anchor Your Retirement show.
Okay, we can do that, and I will bring the hat.
Yeah, and these shows are available on YouTube, so people
They
can
are.
view them. Yes,
They
yeah,
are. They are. And as a show
yeah.
of good faith, if the Twins win the series, you can give me a Twins hat and I'll wear it for an episode.
Awesome. There you go. There
In
you go.
addition
That
to your
sounds
barbecue
fair to
swag.
me.
In addition to your barbecue swag.
Yeah, I'll send you a Twins hat to wear on the show, and then you'll probably throw it away immediately afterwards.
Maybe donate it to a good cause.
Yes, yeah, donate it to a good cause. Yeah, speaking of causes, did I hear that you're volunteering at
I
a benefit to raise awareness for type 1 diabetes and
uh-huh.
raise money,
For research for a cure. Yes.
research for a
I,
cure,
I
and to
am actually,
raise money,
yeah.
they're having a funnel cake
Yeah,
stand?
we are at Old Settlers Days in Olathe,
Okay.
Kansas. Okay, and yes, we will be along with all of that other carnival food. We host a funnel cake truck, and I also happen to be on the board for the Cosmopolitan Club. And yes, hey,
The
it
irony
is
is
what it is. The
the
irony has not fallen short on anybody, but we've actually done this successfully for a number of
oh, I'm
years.
sure. Yeah.
And,
Yeah.
the occasional funnel cake does not cause diabetes, at least not type
Yes.
1.
Yeah.
Okay.
And how often are people eating funnel cake anyway? I mean, once a year isn't going to cause diabetes.
Exactly.
Diabetes, yeah.
But yes, I will be out there this afternoon. By the time this airs, Old Settlers Days will be a thing of the past, as will the
Yes.
Westport Art Fair this weekend, which is also
Yeah.
here. But we also take the funnel cake truck and go to various other charities throughout the
That's
city, and
awesome.
we will do funnel cakes for the volunteers to thank
Wow.
them for their efforts and stuff.
And it
It's
is
a very
delicious.
it is, and it's a very good organization, and I have no doubt that the batter today will be more exceptional than usual because we have a food scientist manning the batter station.
Would that be Eric?
Mhm.
Eric, yeah, he's a great guy and he knows what he's doing. He knows what he's doing. It's going to be delicious. Well, Barb, our topic for today, you said you wanted to talk about tax advantage investments for retirement. As I understand it, most retirement funds like 401ks, IRAs,
Mhm.
most retirement accounts, the tax advantage is immediate, but long term, it's disadvantaged, isn't it?
It can be. It can be. When you're in a traditional 401k or a traditional IRA, traditional thrift savings plan, traditional 403b, you get to not pay taxes on the money that you put in, but it's not tax advantaged, it's tax deferred. That means
Ah,
that you're paying taxes when the money comes out. Now, when these things were first created, I remember my grandparents and my parents having a conversation about putting money into an IRA because you need less money when you retire. So you'll be in a lower tax bracket and you won't be paying as much in taxes. And as I have probably said a dozen times before on this podcast, I have yet to meet anybody who retired and had their mortgage company call and say, "Hey, you've retired. We're cutting your payment in half."
yeah. No, that's not going to happen.
It's not going to happen. And realistically, we know now that you need probably about as much money in retirement as you did while you were working. So that whole tax bracket thing isn't necessarily going to work to your advantage. I mean, it used to be that your Social Security benefits weren't taxed, and now those are taxed depending on what your income is outside of Social Security. Up to 85% of your Social Security benefit is taxed. So when we're looking at planning things for our clients, we're trying to find ways that they have tax-free buckets of income to dip into in retirement, or maybe even a place to invest the money. You
Hmm.
know, a lot of people don't realize that if you invest in municipal bonds, that those don't have a tax associated with them.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Municipal bonds don't.
Yes.
Hmm.
Now, there may be some parts of it that are taxed. I'm trying to think. I can't, municipal bonds are very, very tax advantaged
Yeah. Oh, that's good.
for people.
Good to know.
So, if you're looking at stuff on the non-qualified, those after tax dollars, those are things that you can look at. And again, I'm not giving you investment advice on this broadcast. We want you to seek out a fiduciary and visit with them one-on-one and have them find out your specific circumstances and help tailor those investments to you. However, something that is always going to be tax advantaged is a Roth 401k,
Yeah.
TSP, Roth IRA. All of those, you're paying the taxes up front when you make the deposits, when you put the money in. Then, when the account is at least 5 years old and you're 59 and a half, outside of special circumstances like buying your first house or going back to school, you can take that money out tax free, as well as the earnings can come
So
out
the
tax.
principal and the growth on a Roth
Right.
IRA, 401k, or Roth TSP comes
Mhm.
out 100% tax free. You'd never have to pay taxes on that money when you take it out. And that's a huge advantage, I would think, for a lot of people. In most circumstances, that would be advantageous because the only disadvantage is the versus a traditional 401k or Roth or TSP is you don't get the tax break this year when you put the money in. It
No.
still shows up on your income tax as income, the money that you earned. You still
Right.
have to pay taxes on earned money, but it's going into a Roth and it's growing tax-free. So when it's bigger later in retirement, you won't have to pay taxes on it versus those other accounts you would, right?
Right.
I have
Right.
that right?
You do have that right. And for those of you that are sitting there and you're all investing in the traditional and you have the Roth option, before you make that switch to Roth, understand what it's going to do to your taxes. And if you have, we ran into this situation with a client where his child was allowed to attend the university in the state where he lives, and it's a very good university. They just went from Big 12 to SEC. Okay.
Wow.
But no names here. Because there were several that did that, so I can still say anonymous.
Yeah. Yeah.
And his son was allowed to go for free because their adjusted income, gross income, was below a certain threshold. And then when his boss, who wasn't a fiduciary, told him he ought to be investing in the Roth so that he gets tax-free money later, he switched all of his contributions to Roth, and his income, his adjusted gross income, ended up going above the threshold.
So they would no longer give the son free
So the son
schooling.
did not have free school that year.
And that's a huge expense that was being covered
Absolutely.
because he was under a threshold.
Absolutely.
So you have to
Absolutely.
work with a fiduciary and a professional and work with tax professionals and a financial services professional like yourself. Don't make those mistakes. A lot of
Right.
people say you got to be in a Roth. You should contribute to a Roth. Roths aren't necessarily right for everybody, is what you're saying. But for most people, there are some advantages, but you especially don't just want to willy-nilly convert
Right.
to Roths.
I would say on the Roth side, the pros outweigh the cons overall.
Oh, sure.
And, for highly compensated people like doctors, I do a lot of work with federal employees, and I do a lot of training on their federal employee benefits. And I can't tell you how many doctors have come up to me and said, gee, I sure wish I could participate in the Roth TSP. And I'm like, you can. They're like, no, I make too much money. I'm like, no, the income restrictions for Roth retirement plans, like a 401k, TSP, 403b, are not the same as when you contribute to that outside IRA.
So a Roth IRA is different than in some ways. The rules are a little different for the Roth 401k or Roth TSP.
Absolutely. With a Roth IRA, your adjusted gross income needs to be below a certain threshold, certain income threshold for you to be eligible to even open a Roth. And if you are married and you and your spouse file separate tax returns, that takes a Roth IRA off the table right there. So
Wow.
you need to know the rules.
Yeah. Yeah, that's huge. You have to know the rules. And that's why working with a trusted financial professional, a fiduciary like yourself, Barb, is so
I like
important.
professionary. I like the way you mashed those two words
Professionary.
together. That was pretty cool.
I combine professional and fiduciary. I manage that. That's yeah.
Professionary.
You have to be really talented as a radio person to do that, to combine those words.
You made a new word today. I'm so excited. You heard it here first, folks.
Professionary. Oh man, it's one of those days, Barb. It's
You
already
stayed up
been a
for the
week.
end of the game, didn't you?
Yes, exactly. Oh, but it is true. You are both a fiduciary and a professional, or as I like to say, professionary.
There we go.
And kids, do not try this at home.
Please don't. And it won't be on the spelling test.
No, luckily, fortunately. But you're right. There are so many ins and outs and really it's because the IRS is involved. And so all of these retirement accounts are dictated by rules by the IRS. And that's why we need you, Barb, and shows like this, because the rules are different for everything. And an IRA, a Roth IRA, a 401k, the TSP. And you really deal with these things all the time. And most of us don't know the ins and outs. We work somewhere and some money, we say, oh yeah, I want some money to go in here, and that's it.
Yeah, and
But
never underestimate the value of a good CPA.
that's true. You need a tax professional in your corner
Mhm.
as well, and a good CPA. The
Mhm.
problem is there are differences, and I would tell our listeners to talk to you about who you recommend. I know that you work
Mhm.
closely with tax professionals over the years and have recommendations on ones that know about these things. Too
Mhm.
many tax people that you go, a tax preparer is just going to look back at the last year and file your taxes.
Right.
They're not going to help you make decisions on, well, should I be in a Roth? What would that do to my tax
Mhm.
situation now versus later? And a lot of them, unfortunately, if it doesn't help you this year right now, they're going to tell you not to do it because it doesn't tell you. Yeah.
Right,
And they're
and
not
not to
looking
say
at the
not
big picture.
yeah, now if your accountant isn't licensed to offer investment advice, they shouldn't be offering that either. That's
Right.
why it's good to have, them working in conjunction with each other so
Exactly.
that, we've got the whole team on the same page.
Yeah.
But I've got one more thing I want to talk about for that tax advantaged investment for retirement.
Hmm.
And that is one of my favorite things. If you've listened to this podcast at all for any length of time, you know that I'm about to talk about indexed universal life insurance.
Indexed universal life insurance. You have talked about
Yes,
it a lot on the
I
show.
have talked about it a lot on the
And
show.
are you talking about cash value life insurance?
Yes, it is cash value life insurance. Index universal life insurance is different than whole life insurance. Okay. Met with a lovely couple after we recorded the podcast last week, I think. And they came in, and she works for a mutual fund company.
Oh,
He works for the federal government.
oh,
And they are young and have saved a substantial amount for retirement already. These
that's
guys
good.
are fabulous.
On top of it, that's good.
On Yes, and she's like, "But what do I do if I wanna retire early?" And one of the things she said when I first visited with her was, "Don't talk to me about life insurance."
Well,
So we fleshed that out a little bit, and she's like, "Don't talk to me about whole life insurance." I'm like, "I'm not gonna talk to you about whole life insurance." I'm not a fan of whole life insurance because it can be very, very expensive
yeah,
and not be to the advantage of the policyholder.
yeah,
So, indexed universal life, however, is a different story. And it is something where we can build a tax free bucket of income for you to have. Sorry, I have a little piece of curly hair stuck in my earbud, in my ear, and it's been tickling me this whole time, and I can't stand it anymore. For those of you watching on YouTube, yes, that's why I'm playing with my ear in the middle of the show. I'm not Carol Burnetting you, giving you the
yeah,
tug.
yeah.
Um, um, but with cash value life insurance, you don't have the same age restrictions. You don't have to be 59 and a half to wait to take money out. Okay. You can borrow money from yourself at any time once your cash value reaches a certain threshold.
Hmm.
You have the choice as to whether or not you pay yourself back. If you're using the money while you're still working and you pull the money out to make a down payment on the car or to buy a car so that you're not paying car interest rates and you're paying yourself back the money instead of paying back the lender, then that's to your advantage. The life insurance, more often than not, if you're in good health when we're going into this, is also going to have several other benefits. It's going to help supplement long term care. We have the death benefit in case something happens to you unexpectedly. That's the whole purpose of life insurance, is to make sure that if something happens to you, that your loved ones are taken, excuse me, that your loved ones are taken care of.
Yeah.
It's important to cover those bases. If you live too long, die too soon, or get sick somewhere in between, that's what working with a fiduciary who's putting together a financial plan is supposed to do if they're doing their job well.
Right. Right. And you want to make sure that you look at all the options. You want to work with somebody who's looking at all the possible options and figuring out what's going to best work for your personal situation or to reach your personal goals, because your goals and situation are going to be different than your neighbors or your friends or your
Mhm.
coworkers or your relatives. So you can't just try to do what they did. You need to look at get stuff based on what you want to accomplish. Like that couple you talked about, they have specific needs, and there are specific investments, tools, and options like
Mhm.
index universal life, possibly a cash value life insurance policy that will help them achieve their
Mhm.
goals and be a really great thing for them to utilize. It's funny how people get into their head that certain things are bad and certain things are good, right?
Right.
Yeah, it's like, oh yeah, I'm going to invest all my assets into Nvidia because that's good, and I won't put any money into life insurance because insurance is bad. And it's
Right.
because they feel like the investment is their choice and insurance is something that's sold to them. I think it's just a mindset they get into, and they don't realize that insurance has become so competitive.
Mhm.
You can get great deals and things that'll be very advantageous to you, with death benefits for your loved ones, with the cash value, ways to
Mhm.
tap in for money in retirement. I mean, it is amazing. I wouldn't want to work with a financial person that didn't look at the big picture and all the options for what would work for me.
Right. And it's important that you find that you have a well-rounded and diversified portfolio.
Right.
We are talking on the first Friday of the month, which means that the jobs reports came out. Okay.
Yep.
Jobs reports came out a little bit weaker than everybody thought they were going to.
Yep.
And so the market is correcting. Right
Yep.
now, it's not whether or not the Fed will cut interest rates in a couple of weeks, it's by how much. And
Right.
when you look at the fact that the Bureau of Labor Statistics also cut back, they revised and lowered the jobs that were created for both July and August. It's like, is this really a soft landing? Is this a recession? For
Yep.
the investor out there that just bought all Nvidia and has all of their eggs in that basket, they're a little bit more concerned today than somebody who has a diversified portfolio and who doesn't have everything invested in the market. And that's why you want to work with a financial services professional.
Yeah, and you're not saying don't have money in growth of the market. You're all for
No,
that. You're all for
I'm
that.
all for
But
that.
yeah, but you can't have all your eggs in one basket either. So
No.
that's a good way to put it. Well, Barb, this has been a great show. This is an important topic, but for our listeners and viewers out there, how can they set up that no charge, no obligation consultation with you and your team?
You can always reach out to us at anchoryourretirement.com and fill out that contact form there. Or you can call us at area code 913-553-6222. Select the option for appointments and scheduling. And if Amanda doesn't answer, she's probably on a call with somebody else. And either she or somebody else from our team will get back to you and schedule an appointment with either me or one of our other fiduciaries to help you guys start designing what you want your retirement to look like.
Yeah, exactly. Well, Barb, thanks so much for the info. And listeners and viewers, thanks for tuning in. That does it for today's episode of Anchor Your Retirement with our host, Barb Goen.
We'll see you soon.